supply chain management. Module 2, means of transport. Nowadays, we are facing a very competitive market due to the great number of options available for the existing demand. The companies are doing their very best to be competitive with delivery times, knowing that the delay of some merchandise can mean losing a customer. As we have seen in the previous topic, logistics coordinates all necessary stages with the final objective of providing the customer with their goods on time. Bearing this in mind, we will now focus on the different means of transport used for the distribution of goods. When it comes to getting goods to our customers, one can choose 4 different types of transport: maritime, railway, and road. The choice of one of the other of these depends on the type of product, its weight and dimensions, the point of origin, and the destination, as well as the cost and delivery time. Having this in mind, let us now move to the different types of transport available and their main characteristics. Maritime transport. Maritime transport is a means of transport most commonly used in the international market due to the larger load capacity and its lower cost. There are 2 modalities: break bulk cargo transport, which is carried out by means of regular ship lines, and bulk cargo, transported between 2 points of low marine traffic. In this type of transport, good coordination of all operators involved in the process is necessary. Among these, we can identify the ship owner, the owner of the vessel, the carrier, the transporter. In some cases, he can be the owner, consignee, the agent of the ship owner or carrier that is in charge of the commercial management of the transport in each port, shipper, that is the importer or the exporter, responsible for the shipment that signs the contract of carriage by sea, and the stevedore, this is the employee that manages port operations. This model of transport has both advantages and disadvantages. And one of the main advantages is load capacity. The current model of vessels make this type of transport increasingly easier and more effective. More goods with great volume of great weight, it is best choice. Cost, the prices are increasingly competitive due to the high load capacity offered by the vessels. Specialization, in order to better adapt to the different types of loads and goods, it has been decided which ships can transport liquids, vehicles, or containers. And automation. Nowadays, we already have automated processes for the loading and unloading of the goods, which enable accelerated and reducing costs of this aspect. Integration. It is the type of transport that is integrated with other ones. Due to this integration, there are transition points required, port areas specialized in each type of goods with trains, rails, etc. Now, the disadvantages is the time. For those orders where the delivery time is crucial, this is not a good mode of transport due to the long transit times. The distance. At the intercontinental level, it is of great importance because of the slow pace of the vehicles, which leads to some routes being unviable. Transport routes. The place where the production factory is located should be taken into account, since the points of origin of maritime transport are not very flexible. Depending on the size of the merchandise, some problems with reaching the port of departure may occur. Now we come to air transport. Air transport is much more expensive and more recent means of transport. It represents, however, the quickest way of reaching poorly accessible markets. Let us move to its advantages and disadvantages. Time, as we have seen so far, the time is one of the key elements of the logistic process. It could be said that the process of globalization would not be possible without the existence of air freight. Competitiveness. This type of transport has created an increase in competitiveness among companies which have favored the creation of large leading international logistics groups. Integration. This means the transport not only encompasses transport by air, but also entails the specialized companies responsible for the collection, services, and delivery of the product. And simplicity. The goods are delivered at the cargo terminal of the airport. As a consequence, we can cut down on the cost of packing. Security. There is a lower risk of theft. The disadvantages is the low capacity. Although much progress has been made in the design of aircraft specialized in transfer of goods, we can still find restrictions imposed on some goods of great weight or volume. In addition to estimating the dimensions of the whole of the aircraft, we should not forget about the size of the access doors. Costs. Although most airlines, the international rates are set in accordance with the International Transport Association, often, due to the greater competitiveness, airlines offer different prices. Social costs. This kind of transport entails a few extra social costs, such as noise or pollution, which is associated with the movement of the aircraft. Social pressure groups attach great importance to the strict control of this type of transport. Now we come to road transport. It's the most accessible type of transport for any company. It allows carrying practically any product from the origin to the destination quickly and economically. It is the main means of transport today. When it comes to the advantages and disadvantages of this type, we can list them. Accessibility, to carry it out from the point of origin of goods to the point of delivery without the need to rely on other means of transport. Integration, used as a mode of supplementary transport for other transports. Air, maritime, and even railway means require transport by road to move the goods at some point along the way. And the investment. For a small and medium-sized merging company, it is the most suitable transport, since it does not need a very high initial investment. Schedules. Perhaps one of the biggest advantages in comparison to the other modes of transport is the greater flexibility of schedules. If the company has adequate trucks to transport the goods, it is not necessary to depend on transport companies, a plane or a train, subject to fixed schedules. which are subject to fixed schedules. The disadvantages, the associated cost with the fuel is increasing. The limitations, in this case, the ones implemented by governments with regard to the circulation of vehicles intended for the transport of goods. The social cost, as with air transport, vehicles cause pollution, noise, and also traffic jams. The distance, high difficulty for the intercontinental transfers. In this type of transfer, we distinguish between two types of good, which means hiring different vehicles or transport systems. We can differentiate between three types of load: full loads, grouped or urgent grouped loads. Full loads, a vehicle is hired for a certain route regardless of whether the merchandise occupies all the space available. Grouped loads involves several shippers that share the vehicle, and as a result, a great economic advantage is obtained. Kind of thinking a little bit about Amazon in a way, but maybe not. Urgent grouped loads. As we have seen before, it is becoming increasingly important to please customers by reducing delivery times. With this type of transport, it is possible to move small packages with different shippers, reducing the delivery without increasing the cost of shipping too much. Rail transport. It is one of the oldest means of transport. However, it has not evolved as much as the others. So far, its use is most common for the movement of travelers than of merchandise, and I don't think that's true anymore in Canada. Although it presents a series of advantages that make it suitable means of transport for certain types and occasions. Advantages: efficiency. In this type of transport, you already have a route which prevents delays caused by the transit of vehicles, traffic accidents, etc. Specialization. Like most means of transport, this one has also evolved to adapt to the needs of the merchandise, which is reflected in the adaptation, the engines and wagons. The integration, as we have mentioned before, road transport helps to complete, in most cases, the transport of the merchandise. For this reason, the railway is becoming increasingly adjusted to the needs of interconnection. Capacity. This transport is very flexible when it comes to different types of contact, cargo volumes, and reduction of pollution. Disadvantages: accessibility. Unlike vehicle, a railway cannot access all the points, which implies that most of the time the service has to be complemented with other means of transport. The railway routes have to be devoid of curves or slopes, which means transport time is extended. Internationality, problems can occur in the interconnection between different countries due to the lack of that's true, track gauge, and this leads to a fragmentation of the road and consequently to stoppages in the process. In this transport, we also find different modalities. Full train, in this case, or fractional cargo, door to door. In this case, the company has the whole train for the transport of the goods. This is beneficial for enterprises with a high cargo volume. Fractional cargoes for the companies do not require large spaces, but an urgent shipment. It is very useful for a small and medium-sized enterprise. Door to door. This modality, the railway transport is completed by means of the road system so as to provide a delivery from the place of departure to the end. Multimodal transport. Multimodal transport is growing in popularity. It is defined as transport of goods performed through two or more means of transport. The objective is to achieve a more efficient transfer as the travel distances are constantly increasing. For this reason, the transfer of merchandise from one medium to another can be carried out without problems or additional costs is valued highly. The advantages are time. The handling time has been reduced in loading and unloading operations. The transport costs have been reduced thanks to the use of a more optimal system. The delivery periods has decreased due to a combination of several means of transport. The documentation is greatly simplified as it has been achieved by a single document, and the security, the number of thefts and damage has dropped. As a result, insurance costs have dropped. Below, there is a comparative table with the main advantages of each of the types. High speed, average, low, very high speed, and multimodal. Capacity, not so much. Cost, pretty low. Security is average, and all goods can be transported. Rail, speed is only average. Capacity is high though. Cost is and bulk and solid. Yes, the speed is low. Capacity is very high, and it can use as containers. And very high air, low. Cost is very high. Very high security, high value, high. Average, yes, okay. Freight forwarder. The freight forwarder is the person in charge of choosing and hiring the transport, as well as preparing and managing all the necessary documents of the company requires for the distribution of the merchant. The company may choose to deal with these tasks or hire a freight forwarder. The advantage of the second option is advising the most suitable means of transport for each shipment, as well as all means related to the packaging, handling of all transportation documents. Having more than one client, a freight forwarder manages to different areas of the means of transport, and as a result, companies get better prices from the shipping.